Want to know how to remove the dashboard from a Dodge Dakota or Durango? Stick around to find out. Okay, and welcome back, you guys. So today's video, we're going to be working on this Dodge Dakota. So we're removing the dash for replacement to put in a different dash, but you might be removing it for other reasons, such as your heater core leaking or any of those sort of things. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. I'm putting in this dash, but like I said, you might be doing something else. So let's get to it. All right, so let's take off this trim piece. She just unclips with some speed clips. And it looks like I need a Phillips for most of this stuff, so when we get a screwdriver, we'll get removing. So I've got the gauge cluster out, and I'm just removing the little selector thing that kind of shows you what gear you may or may not be in, as you can see there. So it's just two screws are held on the back, and it's got this little cable connected to it. So we'll take this off, and the cluster just kind of goes on there. So as soon as you take out the four screws that hold the cluster in place, there's nothing to detach. You just kind of pop it off, and it pops off of these connectors there. So that is out. The infamous broken Dakota glove box. Okay, and here's this whole thing. So I'll unplug all this. I'm gonna take off this gauge pillar pod because I got some wires running there, so I might as well pop both of those off. This one looks a little bit, like I said, it's got all your climate control stuff there, so it doesn't look like there's any quick connector on the back of this for what it is, but let me pop off this other stuff and we'll get going. So gauge pillar pod is off. I also took out the little kick plate down there. So let's do the same on the other side. It does look like once we, like I said, I haven't looked at the manual or anything like that on how to take this out. So I'm just kind of winging it a little bit. So you can see here, there's one of the main brackets that holds it. And then we've got this down here as well. So let's get the other kick plate off on that side, and we'll start revealing some of this stuff. So I didn't show you on the driver's side, but this thing has to come off, and this just pops right off. Just work it off all the way, and that should come off. I'll throw this back here. And then this one, same deal, it just kind of pops off. Like that. And this one's off. And then, yeah, same thing. So it's got this bolt with this big slot in it as well. So that's probably gonna be the way we get her off. Okay, so we're still working here. There is a spot where you can disconnect the antenna here, which I don't know if it really matters because it goes up a little bit further. And you're also gonna see this airbag connector, so we'll disconnect that one. And then we have another one right here for our blower motor. So we'll disconnect these two. So my amp is already disconnected and bypassed, so I don't have to worry about disconnecting that. But I do have to take off this 10 mil grounding strap. So I'm gonna work on this now, unplugging the climate control. So the top one you just squeeze. So there's one. These ones have some strange stuff going on. All right, so that middle one that doesn't look like it disconnects. I was right, and I looked online, and it disconnects from right here. So here's the connector that you're supposed to disconnect it from and not try to sabotage up top. So we'll disconnect this right here, and then we can pull it up top. So there it is, disconnected. And now we just have that one cable on the bottom to disconnect. So we've got this, And there's just that one cable right there. So I'll pull this up and through. And on the cable, you'll see that little latch in there. So I'll relieve that and it should pop up. And I'm just gonna wiggle this out. There she is, she's free. So next up, we got a bunch of stuff on this side we still gotta do. So I'm gonna remove the light switch. And on the back, there is 2 large connectors. Same thing. You release the safety latch and then squeeze. And then we'll squeeze and pull that off. And there she is. Next up, I'm gonna disconnect a lot of this stuff. So we've got our OBD2 port. So we'll pop that out. We'll take off this hood latch cable as well. And there is 4 screws that hold on this panel as well. And these clips. So let's disconnect everything. Okay, we might as well unlatch our little shifter selector cable and take that completely out of the picture. So we can slide it up from the top, and there she is. Okay, so we're underneath the driver's side. We're gonna remove a bunch of the wiring. We'll take out this 10mm bolt, and that's gonna disconnect a majority of it. And I do have some custom wiring in here as well for the gauges. And in addition to that, let's swing this big connector out of the way because there's 2 more plugs we need to get to. So we'll unplug these as well. Ancient plastic. And there's that one as well. You will see over here, there's 1 more ground with a 10mm, so we'll remove that too. So I'm gonna loosen this 13mm bolt since we're already over here. Gonna remove these 10mm that are behind the carpet here. We'll remove this 13mm over here too. You'll notice the dash is relatively free. We still have all the screws across the top, but I'm going to also remove this bracket. So there's 2 more 10mm that hold this on. So you can see it starts getting bound up on it as you start to wiggle it. So I think it'll just make our lives easier. So this thing definitely has some weight to it, but it does look like it's just those top bolts that are holding it. So let's go ahead and remove them, see where we're at. This thing weighs quite a bit, you guys. It looks like she's free though. Oh my gosh, look at that, you guys. I wasn't kidding when I said this was a farm truck before. Look at all that hay. Alright, so don't mind all the hay that's behind my dash from this farm truck. But you'll see there's this large connector here. So we might as well disconnect this. Well, that connector was no fun, but we got her out. So even though the steering column isn't mounted to the dash assembly, I am going to lower it so that we can clear the dash to get this out, because I don't know if there's much of a way to get it over. You probably could, maybe if you have 2 people, but I'm gonna go ahead and loosen these bolts. There's 4 bolts that hold this whole assembly in place. So I'm gonna lower this down as well. Also on the driver's side fuse box, there's these 3 connectors that go back towards the firewall. So we'll have to unplug those 3 as well. So there's those 3 clips. If you guys are struggling like I am, I just used needle nose and I kind of straddled it from here to there and squeezed it with a pair of needle nose. So kind of like this. Just shoved it in and then I squeezed the clip like that. So now I'm gonna remove the 4 bolts for the steering column. I did disconnect the steering shaft, but you don't have to. There we go, steering column is now down. Okay, so we got the steering column over here. I just laid it down. Since I removed the intermediate shaft, I was able to really turn it. So I saw some guys laying it on the seat and you still have to kind of lift it over, but putting it here should be a lot easier. So it's all the way down. So let's move this out and see. I believe there's still gonna be a connector or 2 on the back. So let's move this out from over there and see what we got. Okay, and there is this connector. So wiggle this one out and this one. Ooh, she is in there. Okay, there's that one. Here's our antenna, but I think it's gonna come out. Or you can disconnect it halfway. I guess we can disconnect it halfway right there. And what else do we got? Let's lift this up a little bit here. So we do have the airbag one down there in the center, so let's get to that. All right, so I disconnected that big yellow connector from there, and I just passed through any of the wires, like your cable that goes to over here that went to your climate control. I passed it through, and then there is one other thing that we do have to disconnect on the driver's side, and that is this little latch for the parking brake. So the one that goes to the latch there, and as you can see there, everything else is disconnected, so we should be able to lift this thing out of here. I did also put this around here, so if you do disconnect your intermediate shaft, make sure that you prevent your wheel from spinning, because you can break the clock spring inside there. So that's to hold my wheel from doing one of these. There is one more connector right there that goes to your dash, so make sure you get that one. So if you're replacing the heater core, you probably don't need to and don't want to take out the entire dash, and reason because is the harness actually runs into the steering column. So as you can see, this harness runs in. So if you're just swinging it over to, you know, get to some sort of heater core or something like that, then you probably don't have to do what I'm doing. But since I'm completely removing the dash from this vehicle, so we can retrofit the other dash in there, I'm disconnecting it from the steering column. So we have to disconnect all the plugs on here so I can get my dash out. And this connector here, this big one, has a Torx screw in it holding it together. So once you remove that, this one should pop out like that. We're free. So depending if you're going to remove your steering column or not, I just disconnected our shift mechanism, and it just pops off there, and then you squeeze the clips and it comes right out. So this is off of here, and I can completely remove this now. And finally, out she should come. She's out! Man, look at that. That's what over 20 years of just nonsense is. Probably some mice at some point, looks like. I think that just kind of deteriorates, but it's definitely been some sort of rodents in here. It is not nice. So that's pretty much it. So if you're looking to take out your heater core and the heater box and all that stuff, there's gonna be a series of nuts on the firewall, so let's go check them out. So this is probably a perfect example for you guys, and since everything's removed, so we'll take this off. So I'll unscrew this, and we're gonna take off all these nuts here, so you can see that my heater core is already removed, but we've got a nut here, we've got a nut back there, a nut there, and that looks like most of them, honestly. So I'm gonna remove all these, and then we'll take it off. Doesn't hurt to give it a little push from this side too, you guys, on the studs. Just make your life a little easier. You will have to take off this brace. And that is it. She is off. All right, and thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. So that's how you take out the dash on one of these Dodge Dakotas. So if you guys are interested in a little bit more, or you want to see the dash that I'm going to be putting in and all the modifications I'm going to be doing, make sure you hit that subscribe button and check out the other videos on this channel. And we got a big project with that Hellcat going into this Dodge Dakota. So that's why we're taking the dash out, but make sure you give a thumbs up before you take off. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next video.